All right, so now let's go ahead and work on updating the reminder nodes, reminder date, reminder time, and also the list. There are a couple of different things that we need to do before. As I was mentioning, this info button should not appear from the start. It should be hidden. And the reason it should be hidden is that the only time this info button will appear is when you actually click on this particular region, on the reminder name or the title or this particular region, and then we can see the info button. So let's go back to our reminder cell view, and we will find out where we have the info button, which is right there. You can see that the info button is there. We need to make sure that this particular info button is, well, hidden. So, and the only time this is going to be displayed when I actually click or tap on the reminder name or the surrounding area. So what I can do is I can simply go ahead and say the opacity. If this particular reminder is selected, by the way, there is no is selected property, so we will have to create that, then the opacity will be 1, so it will be visible, otherwise it will be 0. Now, there is no is selected property, obviously. So we need to make sure that now we have the is selected property. Okay, let's go on the top somewhere and create the is selected property. This will be a Boolean property, as you can see. Okay. So this means that in order to create the reminder cell view, you need to pass in this particular property. So let's go ahead and pass in is selected, and I'm going to say false. And once we say false, let's see what's going on. I think it might be breaking somewhere else. If I build it, you'll see that it's breaking somewhere else because now the caller is saying that, hey, you didn't really pass in this particular property. You need to pass in is selected. Okay, let's go ahead and pass in is selected. And I'm just going to pass in false. Okay, so that will satisfy it, hopefully. Now we can go back to the reminder cell view, try to see if it actually builds up. And you can see that the info button is no longer available. But we should be able to tap it, meaning we should be able to select this reminder, just tapping on it, this area, wherever I'm tapping, and I should be able to select this. And when you select this, then the info button should appear. So now we need to find out what happens when you actually click on this particular region. Well, we have an event which is called onSelect, and that is the one that's firing. So onSelect is going to get fired, and in the reminder list view, we are not really doing anything with the onSelect, as you can see. So this is where we have to do something. All right, so on particular reminder that is being selected. So what should we do at this point? Well, we get the reminder. We should probably put the reminder in some sort of a state variable. So let's go ahead and create a state variable. There we go. You can see the state variable is selected reminder, and the value is reminder optional, because when this reminder list view is loaded for the first time, the selected reminder will be null or optional, meaning it will have no value. And once we select the reminder, just by clicking on it or tapping on it, we can assign the selected reminder to be the reminder. Okay, so that is going to work for us. That is fine. Now we need to see if this selected is going to be true or false. We can't really send in false all the time, because if I'm tapping on the reminder, that is true, that reminder is selected. So we need to create some sort of a small function that is going to find out if the reminder is selected or not. So is reminder, so we're just going to go ahead and reminder selected, and we are going to be passing in the reminder, which will be a reminder, and it is going to return us a Boolean indicating whether the reminder is selected or not. And how would we know if the reminder is selected? Well, you're going to pass in over here. So is reminder selected, pass in the reminder, and inside the is reminder selected, we can simply check and compare that object ID. If their object ID is the same one, then that means that particular reminder is actually selected. And that's it. That's how we will do it. Let's go ahead and check this out, that if it works correctly or not. I'm going to go to my home view, and let's go ahead and pin the home view so we can see it in other views also. I'm going to go to blue list, and there we go. Now there's only one reminder over here, so that's why you can see the info button. But let's go ahead and add another reminder. I'm going to say reminder number 4. And now I can switch back and forth with these reminders. That's great. Now, once this particular thing selects, meaning this info button is appearing, we can click this info button and we should be able to show you the reminder detail view. This is the detail view right there that is going to allow you to edit the reminder. So that's our mission. We need to do that part. So now we will go back to the reminder cell view. Okay, so when you are selecting the info button, which is this one, it fires the event on info. If we go back to the reminder list view, we can see that on the info part, we are really not doing anything. It's completely kind of like ignoring it. Okay. Over here, what we can do is we can simply say that the show reminder detail set to true. Show reminder detail, what's that? Well, that will be another state variable that we are going to be creating right inside the reminder list view. There we go. And we can actually move them a little bit down just for organizational purposes. So show reminder detail is a state variable, and this is going to be set to true when you have actually clicked on a reminder. Okay, so that's working out fine. The other thing we need to do is we need to display some sort of, the state and all that stuff. Let me go ahead, and we can do it over here, but I like to usually wrap this in a VStack. So let's go ahead and wrap this in VStack, although I don't know if you have to or not, probably not. And what we want to do is we want to put on the VStack this particular sheet. So I'm just going to say sheet is presented, which will be based on show reminder detail, and the content that will be presented will be the reminder detail view. But guess what? We need to pass in the reminder over here. Okay. So if I try to pass in the selected reminder, well, it doesn't like it because it's going to say that the value that you are trying to pass is a reminder, but the reminder detail view wants you to pass in a binding of the reminder. So what we can do over here is we can say binding, and we can pass in the reminder or selected reminder in this case. Okay. Now again, over here we have a problem because now this is saying that, well, the problem is that it has to be non-nullable. So we can just go ahead and unwrap. That is perfectly safe unwrapping, because the only time it's going to be calling this is if the show reminder detail is actually true, and the show reminder detail is going to be only true when you actually click on the reminder button, on the info button. So all of this will hopefully work out for us. Okay, let's go ahead and run this and see that if we are able to do something. So if I click on this, you can see that the info button is appearing. If I click on the info button, and I can see the actual reminder popping up. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and cancel it. I'm going to go ahead and select reminder number 3. You can see that reminder number 3 is already populated, which is great, right? What if I go and update something? That will be interesting. Let's go ahead and update something. Let's go ahead and say reminder 3 notes, and it has a date, it has all of this stuff, and done. Okay, so the done doesn't really do anything. So let's go back and see what's going on. Okay, so the done didn't do anything. Okay, so that means that our done button in reminder detail view, wherever we implemented it, you can see it's kind of like blank. It's not really doing anything. But we are on this page, so we are making a little bit of a progress, but we still need to make sure that our done button is doing something. When we are doing this done button, when we are clicking this done button, we need to make sure that the form is valid. All right, so if I go to the detail view, I need to make sure that you have added the title, this part. I can just go ahead and create a very simple property over here. Is form valid? Boolean. And then I can say edit config.title is empty. Well, if it's not empty, then the form will be valid. That's it, simple. Let's go back to the done button. And now we can go ahead and add some code for our done button just to make sure. If is form valid? Well, if the form is valid, what should we do at this point? Well, if the form is valid, then you should call the reminder service with update reminder, passing in the reminder. Remember, reminder service or update reminder, we implemented it a little bit in the previous videos. And this is going to be, we're going to call it with try, wrap this like this, and we'll get some sort of a value, let's say updated. Now, we're not really doing anything with updated right now, so we can just go ahead and kind of like ignore it for now. And we also need to make sure that we implement the catch part of it. So catch, and for catching, we will simply go ahead and display the error in the console. Okay. There is another way that we can do this, so we don't have to do it over here. Let's see that if we can do this over here by calling the disable button, and we can say is form valid, because if we can do the disable part, then it would be much nicer. Okay, so if the form is, let's say if I delete this part now, okay, so that is actually much better. That means that we don't have to do this and this part, so we can remove that. Because the button, you can't even click the button because it's disabled. Okay, so this looks good. It returns us a true value or false value, probably a true value, hopefully, when you update it. But we're ignoring it right now. We don't really want to do anything with the value. And we also want to make sure that after all of this is done, we are dismissing it. So the modal kind of like goes away. Great. Let's go to the home view, and now let's go ahead and see that if we are able to update the notes, the reminder date, the reminder time, and all of that stuff. I'm going to select reminder number 3, tap on the info button. I can see all the stuff. Let's go ahead and change the title of the reminder to be reminder 3 edit. And for the notes, I'm just going to say reminder 3 notes. I'm going to select a certain date and a time, and let's go ahead and select something. And over here also we will select some sort of a date. And done. And there we go. You can see that it looks nice. You can see that it is available. That's great. If I go back and I go back to the blue list, I can see that it's still there. Reminder notes are there. We can see that the date is there, even the time is there. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for reminder 4. I'm just going to go ahead and not really change the reminder name in this case, but I'm just going to say this is note, and just going to select the actual date and time and then say done. And you can see that there's a problem now, right? You can see the problem over here, which we are facing, is I didn't really selected a particular date. I didn't click on this part, but what should happen is that if you don't select on this part, it should give us a default date, and that is what it is not giving us. So I have to select the date, I have to click on it. I don't want to do that. I just want to make sure that the date is automatically selected. If I go ahead and say I want to select the date, it's going to select the today's date. If I want to say I want to select the time, it should just select the current time, unless I go off and change it. That's a different story. So we need to fix this bug. So let's go ahead and see how we can fix it. Now, one way to fix this problem will be to go to your reminder edit config and provide some sort of a default values. So I can go ahead and say the default value will be the current date. and the default value will be the current time. Okay. So this means that if the reminder date is null, we will take on the today's date. If the reminder time is null, then we will take the today's time. But we will only save these things if the person has selected that they will, they will have a date or a time. Okay. With that then change, let's go ahead and run this. I'll go to reminder number 4, and I will say, I will not select the date, I'll just say done. And now you can see that it is appearing correctly. All right, so we had to provide some sort of a default date, and that is what we are doing. All right. So looks good. I mean, we are able to add a reminder. Let's go ahead and add another reminder, and you can play around with this with different things. Reminder number 10. There we go, reminder 10. You can see the reminder 10 doesn't really have any notes. So let me go ahead and only add notes, just notes. Okay, what about if we only add the time? What if we only add the date? Okay, today. Okay, what about if I do tomorrow? If I go over here and if I select tomorrow, is it going to say tomorrow? Tomorrow. There we go. What about if I go and select the date that is a little bit far in advance, let's say 28th of January? Well, then it's going to show you the actual date. All right. So it's pretty cool that it formats all of those different things for you. And let's go ahead and select a particular time. So time, and I can select whatever time I want. There we go, 4:48 or something. And I think it was right there. There we go. Let's go ahead and select this done. And it's gone. Okay. So looks like our notes are getting updated. Looks like that our the actual notes are updating. The actual reminder date is updating. The time is updating. So we are on a good path in creating this application. Now we still have a little bit of more work to do, which means that we should be able to make sure that our reminders can be deleted. So those things we still have to do. So we'll jump to the next section and learn about how we can add more features to our existing application. Now, one of the things that I'm not really happy about is the reminder date and reminder time. I have to provide some sort of a default date, and that is not really a good idea, and this is going to cause some problems. And the problem it's going to cause is if I go to a particular list, let's say if I go to the blue list, and if I try to edit something, as soon as I land on this page, this particular reminder date and time is already initialized with the current date. So if I select a particular date or a particular time and I don't select it, I mean, I just say that, okay, this has a date or a time, but I don't really change it, then whatever the time that was selected when I was landing on this page will be set. And that time may not be the correct time. So let's see that how we can accomplish this by not setting this date. Now, if we don't set this date, then obviously when you try to add something, let's say if I go over here and add a new one, I will say reminder 5 or something, and I go there. So if I don't set it to be the date, meaning that some sort of a default date, then when I select this date is not really populated. And that's what I really want to do, is when I say that it has a date and it has a time, then these default values, which I haven't really selected, should be part of the edit config, but they're not. So let's go back to our reminder cell view. And in the reminder cell view, we can see all of these different things. So let's go and reminder cell view, reminder detail view. And you can see that we have a couple of different things going on over here. We have the hash time and all of that stuff, but we can actually look for a change property. So we can say on change. And what will change? Well, whenever edit config.reminder date changes, then we will get the reminder date. Well, not reminder date, sorry, changes, but let's go ahead and change that. On change, and whenever the edit config.hasDate changes, then we will get the value for hasDate. And if the hasDate is true, then probably we can do something. All right. So what should we do if the hasDate is true, and only when the hasDate is true? Well, in those cases, we can say edit config.reminderdate equals to the current date. If it's false, then we don't really care, but if it's true, then we do care. And I think from the same way, we can also add another one for the time. So edit config.hasTime, and we will say has time. Only if it has time, then the edit config.reminder time equals to date. Okay. Now in this case, we are saying that the actual date is not really selected, but you are simply saying that has date is true or has time is true. So we will set it to be kind of like a default. Let's go ahead and see if this actually works. So we'll go to blue list. We select the reminder 5. I'll add some notes, and I'll select the date, and I'll select the time, but I will not select it. I will simply say has date and has time, but I will not select the date and the time. I just want it to be the default, and I'll just save it. And you can see right there, it has actually populated correctly. Okay. What about if I change the date? So if I go over here and I actually say, oh no, it's going to be on 31st, and I change it, then it's 31st. So it looks like everything is working perfectly fine. All right. What about if I go over there and I turn it off and I turn it back on, and then I say done? Well, then it becomes today because it resets, obviously, right? So this is, I think, a much better technique, because in this technique, we didn't have to change this part, and we didn't have to provide some sort of a default value or a default date. So this is actually a little bit much better, and you are going to get the current time and the current date instead of the time and the date when you landed on this page, which might be old or in the past. So that is much better technique, so we're going to go with that. If you like this video and want to support my channel, then the best way would be to check out azamsharp.school. Azamsharp.school is one of the largest catalogs for iOS development videos. I have 22 plus courses with 130 hours of content. And check out some of the great reviews from our students. And these courses are all about iOS development, so this will include courses for Swift data, core data, MVVM design pattern, MV pattern, full stack development with Vapor, server-driven, test-driven development, everything you need to learn. So these courses are available for individual pricing, or what most people do is they just sign up for the membership, so they have access to 22 courses, 130 hours of content. And another thing that I have started are the workshops. Now, these workshops are live workshops. This means it's going to be 2.5 hour to 3 hour live workshop, very hands-on. And you can go to the workshops page and check out all the different workshops that are available. This is like really hands-on, meaning there's no slide. You'll be working on some projects. I'll be there every step of the way on the Zoom call. And look at the pricing for the workshop. I mean, $50. Come on, it's like nothing. Swift Data Fundamentals workshop, and then we have also Introduction to Testing in iOS. Now, these are very hands-on workshop. I'll be there like doing test-driven development. You will be working on your projects, and we will do activities. You will learn about what is mocking. We'll have discussions. So the workshops is basically you have access to me for those 2 or 3 hours. So you can ask any questions you want. All right. So check out the courses, check out the workshops. Become a pro member so you have access to everything. And that's it. Thank you so much, and make sure to subscribe, make sure to like and share. Thank you.